Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Cars and Coffee. And if you're a car guy that wants to know more about cars and performance, you're in the right spot because we're going to talk a little tech today, answer some questions, but most importantly, we have an extra special guest. Evan Smith is going to be joining us. Evan, for those that don't know, is a super accomplished editor in magazine. He was editor for Muscle Mustangs for a long time, was a writer for Muscle Mustangs. He's also an incredibly accomplished drag racer. Okay, so now you're saying he's a drag racer. Why are we going to be talking to him? Well, there's an answer for that coming up. Going down my little list that Carrie gave me. I forgot to say this. I'm Kenny Brown, if you didn't know that already. Let's see, we're going to do, Evan and I are going to do some bench racing, talk about some of the cars that I built that he's driven and some other things. We've got... we're going to talk about my exclusive new suspension reveal. It's going to be this Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. If you're not signed up to it, get registered. You only get registered through the Speed Therapy Society. And you do have to register because there's going to be a Zoom meeting, which means we'll be sending you a link, I think the day before or something like that. So you'll be able to, the day before or the afternoon before. Anyway, there'll be a link that you can click in and join the meeting. It's going to be pretty cool. Let's see. We're going to kind of switch around a little bit. I'm going to do the questions first, so we can give Evan a little more time. Mentioning this month's artwork is Wild Horses. It's an original artwork in acrylics by Ron Burton, who's an extremely accomplished artist here in Indianapolis. And anybody that's ever been into Union Jacks in Speedway has seen a lot of his work. And Carrie actually surprised me with that on my birthday in 1996. And it's pretty cool. It's an amazing piece of art. Oh, yeah, we just found out like 20 minutes ago, on the 22nd is going to be our 1-year anniversary of Kenny Cars and Coffee, or Cars and Coffee with Kenny. Remember we had that debate a long time ago. So I think next week we'll have to do something for an anniversary show. Although we do have some special guests next week. We're going to have Paul Dondero talk about how his V6 runs with V8s on track, and we're going to see a new seat from Impact Racing next week. Let's see. So, one more thing. My tool. I was talking to somebody last week that didn't realize that old toolbox is my actual toolbox. It's been with me for over 40 years. And between that toolbox and myself, we have been to virtually every major racetrack in North America and into Canada more than once. So that's in case you're wondering, I still use it every day, which makes me kind of different from all the other people out there that sell parts. I know this stuff. I work on the cars. Let's kind of jump into some questions, and then we can bring Evan on. And because he's a pretty cool guy. I mean, we've known him for a long time. Let's say questions. Mike wants to know: are billet oil pump gears really necessary? Do they really fail in S550s up to 8,000 RPM? See, the 2020 GT 500s have a thicker design, but still pop metal. I'm curious if it's for a reason. My car is a 16 GT 500. Oil pan pump, Pro Charger. Listen, any time that you're doing a lot of modifications to a Coyote motor, and especially if you have the front cover off, replace the oil pump with steel gears. I mean, it's just a super good insurance policy because the oil pump, the pot iron. You said it, pot iron metal or pot metal. They will break. Especially high RPMs. So, I mean, I strongly recommend it. And seeing as you've got a 16 GT with a Pro Charger, I also strongly recommend you get one of our triple pass radiators to keep temperature under control, because your cooling system was designed around 450 horsepower basically, and you're adding probably at least another 120. So that's a lot more BTUs. You need to get rid of those BTUs. And we've got, our triple pass radiator is phenomenal. Everybody's put it on is just blown away by how well it works. And it's completely different from the other 3-core radiators that are out there. This is triple pass. It goes across 3 times and has 17, 18% more surface area on the fins, so that's why it cools so much better. But I strongly recommend a steel oil pump and also a radiator because you're going to make a lot of heat. Let's see. Jay wants to know if I was building a car from scratch, a street track car, what year would I suggest? Man, it kind of depends on what you like. I mean, 99 to 04 Cobras are great. Even Fox bodies with IRS in the back, and anything SN95 or Fox, you put an IRS in the back and with a front grip kit, it's a joy to drive. S197s, we've got a lot of stuff experience with S197s. In the S197 category, I'd look at a Boss Mustangs. I mean, that's pretty good bang for the buck. Plus, we're going to have the new rear suspension. S197s is going to blow people away. It's going to be amazing grip on track. And of course, the S550 cars. I mean, that's a completely different car. It's like a huge departure from the 197s. I mean, Ford really did some engineering. The chassis stiffer. It's got the dual lower arm, McPherson strut in the back, the IRS in the back. It's definitely a heavier car, and they drive differently. But any of those, I don't know if I have a favorite. I think I've had one of each at one point in time, and they're all good in different ways. But definitely S197, SN95. You need to get a suspension under. It's interesting, the 550s, we don't really do as much of the suspensions because Ford did a pretty good job on that. But anyway, it's just whatever you want. I mean, if you want to, if you got some thoughts and some ideas, want to chat, sign up for one of my 15-minute consults. And we can talk about it. I mean, if you're trying to make a decision, and see if I can't help you out. Let's see. Walter wants to know what's the best differential for track days. We pretty much exclusively use Torsons. Torsen is a differential that it's torque sensing, which means that the torque of the motor is going to go to the tire that has the most grip. So you're going to get better grip in both rear tires with the Torsen than it's a standard posi differential. Now we have Strange build our 9-inch for S197s, the 9-inch range S197s. They use, I think, an Eaton True Track, which is sort of the same thing. But torque sensing is the way to go. I've been using that since we started working on the IRS Cobras in '99. Let's see. Ken wants to know, how do you work on a car in the sub-zero temperature? A really big space heater. That's the only answer. Although be careful, if you got a space heater that has a flame working around cars with flammable liquids, be cautious. Also, if you got like a propane-driven heater in your garage, be sure you crack a window so you get fresh air and you don't kind of suffocate yourself with carbon dioxide. Okay, and then getting down to Andrew, gear ratios. What works for different types of tracks? Okay, that's kind of tough because every track is different. And with street cars that go to the track, there's not a lot of things you can change. I can step back and say, okay, if I'm doing a race car, here's how we set up a race car. First, we'll do the transmission, and we'll look at the power curve of the transmission. Now, let's say, for example, the peak horsepower is at 6,500, peak torque is at 4,500. We'll set the gears up as you go from gear to gear. When you shift to the next gear, you're going to go from 6,500, never going to go below 4,500 because you're going to be in the meat of the torque curve and pull up. So we set the transmission up first to be between the 6,500 and 4,500. So shift, 6,500 shift, you're maybe 5,000. So you're in the middle of the torque, so it pulls really good. So that's how I set the transmission up. But then for the rear end, it boils down to the gear that gives you that gets you real close to red line in 5th gear, because typically we don't use 6th. Whatever gear works to get to red line at the end of the longest straightaway. So at the end of the longest straightaway, if your red line 6,500, I mean, you want to be seeing 6,200 on your rear gear. If it's lower than that, then you need to go deeper, go down a gear. If you're not getting up, you're not getting to red line in that gear, then you want to go up a gear. So it just depends. I can tell you most of the cars we do will run either 373 or 410. 410s work really good with the Magnum XL transmissions, And the 373 seemed to work really good with the Boss Mustang and with the 550 cars with the performance pack. So again, it's kind of, you have to sort of figure out what you want to do, and like for a street car, it's really tough to really get too deep into gears. Let's see. Oh, gift certificates. We have 2 winners. For those who were with us last week, know that we had Dan Neve on, and Dan is an amazing guy. And him and his wife spend every summer going from event to event to event, and they set up a little tent, and they get collections. They collect for cancer research and cancer awareness, and it's Cruise for a Cause. And this year he's giving. Last year they couldn't go out, so he did kind of a telethon, which I was on, and he got quite a bit of money off of that. And this year he's going to be a combination of online, and also is going to do a bunch of events. And I think we probably at some point will post that up, the events he's going to do. But yes, it's him and his wife, and they get a lot of money for cancer. And what we're doing, the promotion that we're running is that if you buy the chance, so his giveaway is a GT500. Now, who wouldn't want a GT500? And if you get the by your chances to win the GT500 through us, there's a special Kenny Brown code that you can get 40% more chances. So it's kind of like, it's like a big bonus.
Yeah, and we should have the link in the comments, but if you don't see it there, it's cruise, the number 4, acause.org, and the special code is KBP, or Kenny Brown Performance, KB Performance. So again, the website is cruise4acause.org, Kenny Brown, or no, KB Performance.
KB Performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've been helping Dan for a long time. It's anybody that commits that much of his life for a cause is worth noting. Yeah, he's raised over $550,000. So I mean, that's, like I said, that's pretty good. But we ran a promotion last week. We said that for people that donated this past week, we were going to pull out 2 people and give them $100 gift certificates for Kenny Brown products. And we do have 2 winners, but we're going to have to wait to the end to find out who that is. Build some suspense. Okay, going down my notes. Gear ratios. Our 1 year Cruise for the Cause. Rear suspension reveal. I'll go over that again. It's a suspension I've been working on for a long time. We spent 2 years track testing, a number of years just doing the engineering and development. And we applied for a patent because I want to protect this. There's so much work that goes into it. But the job that it does, it just absolutely changes the back end of a Mustang. It creates tremendous rear grip, which, as everybody knows, that's a problem with Mustangs. Anyway, I'm going to be introducing that in a private session Thursday night. Remember, you have to be a member of the Speed Therapy Society and register. Speed Therapy Society, Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. Got it all in. Where you can click to register, and then, like I say, you will get a text or an email with a link. And I just talked to Brian Arstig. We had a guy doing secret testing for 2 years racing, and when one of the people we know found out who it was, he goes, "Damn, that's why he was so fast." So yeah, and we're actually going to have a little interview with him, so he can tell you in his own words just how good this rear suspension works. So, I'll give you a hint. I brought a piece. That's my hint. Now you got to figure it out. Okay, with that, I think we are going to have our special guest, our extra special guest. Can you make that bigger?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
There we go.
Bigger than life.
Yeah. Special guest is Evan Smith, REVan Evan. Amazing guy. And we got connected back in the mid 90s, I think, when he was working with Muscle Mustang magazines, and super accomplished drag racer. I mean, it would take all morning to go down all the awards and things that he's won, but he's been like 20 factory production quarter mile records, including a 2020 Shelby GT 500 at 1061. multiple NHRA record holder in stock eliminator, 18-time NHRA class winner, Division I junior stock champion, Cobra Jet shootout winner. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. I mean, the guy, when it comes to drag racing, this is the guy. However, you're gonna say he's drag racer, but we're track guys. Here's the backstory. A long time ago, we're going into the Wayback Machine. I know you guys like when we go in the Wayback Machine, way back to the mid '90s, and we did a track event with Muscle Mustangs magazine, and the editor at the time was Jim Capisano, and the magazine was like pretty much all drag racing. That's a cool picture. You see Evan hobnobbing with a couple of industry giants, Bill Ford and Kenny Brown. I had to throw that in there. Anyway, he came to our driving event, and he went through my school, and I taught him how to drive. And he thought that it was, Capisano thought it was such a great value that he wanted all of his editors to come to my school for me to train them. And the reason for that is they always go to these like car events, these media events where editors get to drive cars. And I can tell you, I've been at some of those, and I can tell you for sure that there's a lot of editors, even though they write really well, they think they can drive, but they really can't. Anyway, Jim wanted his guys, when they went to these events, to kind of stand out from everybody else. So he sent their editors to me for me to train them. And Evan was one of the guys. And Evan went on to actually be the editor of Muscle Mustangs for I think 7+ years. But Evan was one of the guys that Jim sent, and Evan was kind of interesting. He was when he first started, he was kind of quick, but not fast, and extremely scary. I mean, he scared the bejesus out of me more than one time. Here's some more shots from that's Jim Capisano and Evan and myself. And the cone, there's a story to the cone. He's won a lot of prestigious awards. He's also won the prestigious Golden Cone Award, which we'll get into a little bit. But Jim sent, anyway, I taught Evan how to drive, and he is not only an exceptional drag racer, he has turned out to be an exceptional road racer too on track. So with that, I think we're going to invite Evan in. Oh, there he is. Morning, Evan.
Good morning.
Really super happy you could join us today, because I mean your background is beyond amazing, and aside from drag racing, like I said, you turned out to be an amazing road racer too.
Thank you.
Even
I don't know
though
if that's amazing, but I can generally keep it on the track.
Yeah, I mean, even though he scared the hell out of me the first time, but I'll tell you, the people, the reason he did is because he was gone pretty fast. I mean, really fast for a first timer. But I had no idea where the weight was on the car. And as I taught, like in Speed Therapy Academy, you talked about Cars and Coffee, you need to know where the weight is. You need to have the weight on the back when you're accelerating. You need to have the weight on the front when you're decelerating and turning. And Evan was like driving like crazy, but the weight was kind of like moving all around, which scared me. But once we kind of sat down and talked about the weight thing, I know what to do. And after that, he just turned into a tremendous driver. And he enjoys it.
I had no idea that you had to, utilize the sprung weight of the vehicle and put it on the contact patch that you want to do the work. I still talk about that stuff, the basics of handling, because people think they really do. I was listening to your opening, and people really do, think because I have a fast car and I know about cars and I can work on cars and I know how to drive, and they have I think it's not a knock on anybody, because I had to learn like anybody, but until you are taught, just like any sport, unless you were taught the basics, it's almost impossible to build and go faster if you don't understand the basics.
Yeah, I think another notable editor that we trained was Vinny Kong. And he picked up the nickname. Yeah, he picked up the nickname Spinny Vinny. And you can imagine where that comes from. It's because I was driving with him. We're on the grass and dust is floating through the car sideways. But I also came up with I coined a phrase with Vinny. It's like slow in, fast out, fast in, spin out. But he's a great guy. He's doing really, really well these days too, I think.
He's doing great. Look, I even got a themed mug for the day. My buddy John Moore gave me this cool mug.
Oh, very cool. That is cool.
I have a few Mustang ones, but figured I'd go with this.
A lot of people know I'm really fond of Porsches. I think they build an amazing car, like Mustangs too, obviously. So let's go down memory lane a little bit.
Oh boy.
I mentioned the golden cone. Why don't you kind of give everybody? Oh, before I go, remember that you can send in questions for me, and you can send in questions for Evan. And we get a little bit later on, we'll go back and answer your questions. So, the golden cone.
Golden cone. I don't have it anymore. I think I donated it.
Can you tell us how you managed to get the golden cone?
Well, the golden cone is generally awarded to the person at the track day school that Kenny and when originally you worked with track time and then track guys with Jeff Lucina. Jeff and I have had a ton of fun together. But I think I don't know all the criteria, but I know that I won it. So I know that I probably smashed into a few cones along the way and maybe kicked up a little dirt with some tires, but I never went backwards.
Well, the golden cone was always presented at the banquet to the driver. That there's a number of criteria, but most of it is whoever did the stupidest thing. So
on track. So I'm not sure what that was. It could be running over cones. It could be running across this chief steward's toes. I mean, there's a lot of things it could be. I can't remember why, but I remember that you got it. I think something that I'll talk about that was very extremely special to me is we had everybody know I was off for a lot of years, struggling with some health stuff, which as you can see right now, I'm healthy as can be. But when we're coming back, Kerry put together a 25th anniversary track day at Putnam Park, and they were all there on Friday getting set up. I came down Saturday morning, and unbeknownst to me, Kerry was able to purchase back Old Blue, my 1993 World Challenge Mustang. And when I was sick and really sick, the company kind of went away because anyway. But it was such a treat. I mean, I was standing there and they had it stuck in a barn. And as soon as somebody started it, I knew right away what car it was. I mean, I just knew that tone. And I can't remember if it was Evan or Jim that drove it around to me, but I mean, it was a touching moment.
Why don't you ask Evan what happened on Friday before when they were testing the car before they gave it to you?
Oh yeah, I guess there's some kind of story about Friday testing.
Yeah, so basically what happened was we showed up early, Jim Camposano and myself, and there was a few other people who were there. I think I remember Jeff Lucina being there. Brad was there, Brad Grissom. Again, longtime members of our little circle. And we're over, we're looking at the car and we're just like in awe of it because, a lot of us had our first real race car drives in that car. So it's a special car to you, but it's also special to other people too. Not to mention it's a great looking Fox body Mustang. So there's the car sitting there and it's cold and rainy, which we weren't anticipating. And somebody had the bright idea that, well, we can't just give Kenny the car because we don't even know if it like runs really well or anything like that. So I don't know if it was Brad or Kerry had the idea to take it out for a couple of hot laps, so, a couple shakedown laps. And they offered it to Jim, and it was raining and the car had slicks. And Jim didn't want to do it. He just was not into going out, I guess, in the rain on the slicks. And part of the reasons I won the Golden Cone was because I had no problem getting in it and going out in the rain. And it was freaking terrifying because, it must have just started raining. The oils were coming up. I'm on slicks. And I think I was going about 15 miles an hour. It wasn't much of a shakedown session, but I did get a few laps in. brought it back, and the look on Brad's face was priceless because I didn't think he thought anybody was going to actually take the thing out because it was really that poor conditions. And I only slid off track with 2 wheels once, and I brought it back in one piece though, and I knew we were giving you the car, so of course I didn't want to damage the car in any way. I didn't want grass or dirt in the interior. I didn't want to go flying through the grass. So I think I just made sure it was running and didn't overheat so that you could drive it the next day, and that we put it away. That was it.
Yeah, that was a super special thing for me. And have Jim and Evan there because both of them I taught to drive in Old Blue. In fact, I think Jim Capisano got his first solo at Watkins Glen in Old Blue. But then I got to drive it, and I tell you, it's like the feeling of your most favorite pair of jeans. I mean, the car just felt exactly like it used to. It just felt so good. Right now, it's kind of in storage for a little bit. We're going to bring that out and do some vintage racing. Maybe next year. We've got a lot of things on the plate right now. Yeah, I love that car. Where did you get to drive Old Blue? What tracks?
Drove it at Putnam, and I think I drove it at at Watkins Glen. I want to say that was the first car that I drove, which was racing was so scary because my first on-track session ever. And I remember I'm a drag racer and I've driven high-powered cars of the day, all the Mustangs and stuff. But I got out on track, and my first session, it was wet, and I'm in your supercharged like $60,000 Mustang. So I was pretty nervous, and I was a hero till I got to the first corner, and then I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. But like you said, I think maybe I had a little bit of decent car control skills, so I was able to kind of navigate the track, but I really had no clue as to threshold braking, where to turn in, what to do, other than I could upshift pretty fast. And I did have the weight in the right place, by the way. You were wrong about that. I had all the weight on the throttle.
I
was pushing the throttle with everything I could going down the straightaway.
Yeah, see, that's a drag racer in you. Give it gas.
Of course.
If it doesn't do anything, give it more gas.
That makes everything better.
Yeah. What are some of the cars of some of my cars that you've driven in the past? Can you remember any of them?
Of your cars?
Yeah.
Yeah, like pretty much all of them. The red, I don't remember if it was like a 96 7.8 Cobra was the first one, and that car was so much fun. I mean, it was one of the first ones with a centrifugal supercharger, a lot of horsepower, great balance. Then Old Blue, which didn't have the power, but it was the first pure race car that I ever drove. So the difference, if you're kind of wondering, well, what's the difference between a 600 horsepower supercharged Mustang and a 300 horsepower Fox body? The Old Blue had race brakes. It had no interior. So you in a new car, you don't really smell as much. Not that you don't feel as much, but you have all the luxuries of power windows, and it doesn't make as much noise. The sound deadening is still there. Man, you get in a real legit race car with no ABS and manual brakes, where you literally have to control the car. There's no help. There's no nannies. The brakes smell after a couple laps in a good way. You know that they're working, and they're squeaking, and the car's making all kinds of race car noises. That's just a different kind of experience. And then the Kermit, I drove Kermit, the green V6 car. I forget what year it was, but the one that you built to look like a 69. I sent some pictures of that to you guys.
That was 2005. That was my that was M69, my SEMA concept car. I had wide body 69 wide body on it that was crafted up in Detroit.
Okay, and then off track, I think didn't you build like some Explorer back in the day, if I remember correctly? And
oh yeah, we did a bunch of, yeah, we did Crown Vics, we supercharged Crown Vics, supercharged Marauders, supercharged Explorers, supercharged Expeditions. I mean, we did a lot of different cars back then.
And then, so my favorite one would be Ruby. I drove that in Chicago at Joliet at the track. And even though it was a cold day, that's my favorite car that you've built so far. I don't know if you have a picture of it handy to put up or something like that, but that's my favorite one. I should have grabbed the issue or where we put it on the cover.
Yeah, Ruby, for those that don't know, were my 2012 Mustang. That's kind of a full-on track car. It's a GT4 RS, but it still had power windows and air conditioning and all that. But the car was it was fast. It was easy to drive. I mean, it was so much fun. I remember, I think at that same event, Jeff Smith from, I don't know if he was Hot Rod or Carcraft at the time, he was pure Chevy, pure drag race guy. Somebody coached him into just taking a couple laps with Ruby around the track. And so he was just going to go out and do 2 laps. There she is. And, he was on, he wouldn't come into the end of the session. So, I mean, that's how much fun that car was to drive.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, the car did everything well. It had a ton of power. I remember I took one of our publishers out for a little drive when we were in Chicago that day, and it was exceptionally cold. I remember you sticking your head in the window, right? It was first thing in the morning, and you just cautioned me, like, basically, don't F up my car. It's ice cold out there. And I was like, I got this. But I knew that you got to go real easy. Nothing. The tires are cold, and they probably weren't going to warm up. So we were pretty careful, but we all came back with smiles on our faces.
Yeah, that was a great car. What are some of the other cars that you've driven lately? I know that all our guys always ask you about newer cars, and I've been so deep into developing new suspension, I've kind of lost touch with things.
Well, I've been real fortunate, Kenny. I've probably driven since I got hired at Muscle Mustangs and up until now, I've probably had the chance to be on track with just about every new Ford produced. And then even, your competitors, whether it's Celine or Steeda, I've driven all their cars on track as well as yours. So I've been very, very lucky. And then I've driven, of course, the new GT350 at Laguna Seca. I don't know how you could really get a much more fun experience than driving, a 350R coached by Randy Probst at Laguna Seca. Like, that's just the best. And then be able to drive the GT500 on track with Billy Johnson coaching me. So I'm like, not only do I get to drive these cars, but then I get tips and tricks and coaching from some of these guys who are real professionals. I am not a professional road racer by any shake of a stick. I'm a journalist maybe who has okay car control and can get around the track and not kill myself. But the new cars, it's amazing to me how Ford can just keep making the car better. And we used to just be so terrified of weight. We used to just rip the sound deadening out. You look at the new GT500, it's over 4,000 pounds, and it does everything well. I mean, you mentioned the drag racing part in the opening, but that car on a road course, stock, is just mind-bending. I've driven it in Las Vegas on the road course, and then more recently, I did the Ford North American track tour. I have a video on my YouTube with my friend Shelby. She went and we did like a video with her on my YouTube of her driving it, and it was probably the most high-powered car she'd ever driven. And I expected, she was behind me, and I expected her, when I looked up, to be 15, 20 car lengths behind me. And we were on the Roval there using the banking and everything of the oval. I look in the mirror, and I mean, all I saw was this giant grill Shelby. She was inches off my bumper. So, and she's a pretty good driver, but I expected to be a little quicker, but I wasn't. I give her props. But that car is amazing, beyond amazing.
Have you had a chance to drive the new Mach-E? I know Kerry wants one.
Yes, I have. I've driven the Mach-E. Got a YouTube video on that as well. My YouTube is REVan. Shameless plug right there. Check out. You can see all this stuff on my YouTube. The new Mach-E, I drove with my buddy Abe, who helps me out with my YouTube channel, and we do a lot of projects together. He's actually on his way over here in a little bit when we're done. We love racing so much that when we're done here, we're going to go to Sebring, which is only 70 miles from my house, and watch the historical races because they're going to be running the 70s Trans Am cars. So I got a lot of road racing going on today. I'm kind of amped up. The Mach-E is fantastic. The name, everybody's kind of like, it shouldn't be called a Mustang. That's Ford's deal. I feel Mach-E could have stood on its own up until Now they've never had to brand another vehicle that they've made as a Mustang, but I'm not going to let that spoil it for me. If you're into that, an electric car, it's fantastic. I drove it in the snow. That the fact that you have all-wheel drive with the electric motors, you can't drive a rear-wheel drive Mustang in bad weather on the street with aggression. This thing, not that you want to go out and do silly things, but there's no stopping it. It goes. And I didn't even drive the GT yet, which is coming out. That's going to be insane.
Yeah. I'm going to throw in another shameless plug for you. I mean, Evan talked about his YouTube channel. I strongly recommend you guys take a look. I mean, he's got buckets and buckets of cool videos. I mean, I think you'd be pretty impressed all the stuff he's got. I think we put the link up to it. Yeah. I'd highly recommend you spend an hour or so just going through some of his videos, because he's done a fabulous job.
Thank you. We try to have fun. I basically patterned the YouTube channel after the way we did Muscle Mustangs, and there's probably a kind of a mantra that Campy and I lived by that maybe shouldn't be repeated live because it's it's a little edgy. But we tried to do things that real people would go out and do. We tried to be gutsy, and like, we're not just going to build a project car and it's going to disappear. We're going to take it and go NHRA drag racing, and sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed, and we did all of it right in front of everybody. Whether it was blow up an engine, lose first round, I got a lot of red lights under my belt, but we always had fun. We always told the story, and people always were able to come out and see what we did, whether it was at one of your events or an NHRA event, or Jim Camposano won some fun Ford races. He was out there competing himself. I think that's what made the magazine so great, is that, we actually went out and participated, not because we had to, but because we're just car enthusiasts to begin with that had really, the luckiest guys in the world to have the jobs we did. So the YouTube channel basically to me is a carryover of that.
Well, you've got a lot of great stuff on there. I think I saw a question. Somebody want to know what Evan's Evan's favorite tracks are. Road course. I can tell you,
my
I like
road course.
Well, I like Putnam because it's short. It's really good for testing. But
what did you say?
I like Putnam because it's short and it's really good for testing. You can get a lot of laps in a day, get a lot of work done. It's also a fun little club track. But as far as the big tracks, I mean, I got to put Road America in there. I mean, I lived up there for a year, and I love driving that track. And another one of my favorites is Watkins Glen. That's a great track. But there's so many good tracks. I mean, Mid Ohio, it's super technical. Road Atlanta, it's fast and technical. So, so tell me, what do you think of yours?
All right, it's tough for me. I'm not a guy of favorites. I just like stuff, because I like so much different stuff. It's always hard, whether it's food or whatever, to pick my favorites, but I will. Since you're pushing me, I love Road America. I only ran there one time at the One Lap of America, but the layout, it's like a whole lot of drag strips connected with a bunch of corners. So there's a lot of wide open there, but yet there's some seriously technical parts as far as being able to control the car and get around the place quick, whether it's the carousel or going, I can never remember turn numbers, but the uphill braking under the Corvette sign when you make the left, man, you brake a little bit too late there and the car starts to get light. You got to brake while the car is in compression. So that's challenging. I like that track. Watkins Glen is just, oh my God, what a fantastic track. I struggle at VIR because the car kind of gets unsettled there, and it's a little unnerving for me. I love Road Atlanta. Again, that's a shorter track, so you can kind of turn more laps, and that place is super fun. I've had some fantastic days. Now I'm gonna lift my computer up so you can see what's behind me, Kenny. So I've been doing a lot of iRacing. I don't know if you can see my simulator back there.
That's pretty impressive.
So iRacing is really fantastic, and if you've never done it, a lot of people may poo-poo call it a video game, but the tracks are so dead on, and the tracks that I've driven, and then the tracks I've driven on iRacing, they're so dead on that it's just amazing. And then, you know, being able to join the leagues, like my buddy Abe and I did an enduro, a 2-hour enduro, driving the Ford GT at Bathurst. When the heck am I going to Australia to drive Bathurst? So to be able to experience different tracks that maybe you'll never go to, or ones that you're going to go to, so you could learn the tracks, it's invaluable. If you get on there and try it, it's kind of mind blowing at how good they've made these things. So Spa, a track I've never raced before, but it's really, really fun, is Spa.
Oh, I would love to drive Spa.
Oh.
I mean, that's on a global scale. I think Spa's got to be at the top. That is just such a cool place, and so much history.
Yep, and you can see my Recaro seat that I have on there. Recaro helped me out with that seat, and it's, you know, really holds you in tight when you're iRacing. It's super comfortable, and it's an actual race seat. So I got to shoot a plug out to my friends at Recaro for helping me out with that. Up my sim game.
Yeah, how about you guys out there? Why don't you tell us what your favorite tracks are to drive? It's interesting to see that. I mean, because every track's got a little different thing. I mean, Sebring is Sebring. You've got to drive Sebring in your lifetime. There's nothing like it. And actually, Ruby does extremely well down at Sebring over the bumps.
I actually forgot about Sebring, and it's local, and I probably have more laps at Sebring than any other road course. You're right. That is a really fun, technical, challenging track.
Yeah, it really beats up cars. If you want to do endurance testing, Sebring is the place to go.
The best thing for me about Sebring is that I always drive other people's cars.
That makes it.
I've driven your cars there.
That makes it super handy.
Yes,
so,
it does.
have you got any questions coming in, Carrie, yet?
I just put it out there. We can ask Evan.
Okay, here comes Carrie with her computer and questions.
So we're getting in here. Jim Camposano is in the audience.
Hey, Jim. Good to see you.
And he's going to be joining us soon on an episode. So he's obviously an industry icon. So let me get my mouse up here so I can do this. And any questions that you have for Evan, please ask them now, and he will be able to answer them. Here's some of the favorite tracks. Ernie Abercrombie loves Road American. He actually just moved down south, so he is down there. We also have
Road Atlanta, not Road American.
Yeah, sorry, Road Atlanta. Brad Grissom, Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta, and he has a ton of laps at Sebring. Jim Camposano, Watkins Glen is still number one. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, Jim did his very first solo on track in Old Blue at Watkins Glen. I remember when he came back in, he just sat there. He just sat in the car, just trying to absorb it all in.
And then Chris Melitu says VIR is a great track. Jeff Lucina says favorite tracks, all of them, if we're hanging out with our friends. That is so true. Joe Johnson, who is in Texas, loves Barber, Eagles Canyon, VIR, Charlotte, and ROVA. ROVA. I don't know what track that is, but you probably do. Chris Melitu, also Barber's nice. And
yeah, Barber, there, talk about technical track.
Okay, here's a really good one for you. Evan did a big story on the Godzilla engine, and we have a question for you. Tell us what's up with the Godzilla engine.
Well, if you want to know about the Godzilla, I'll throw you back to my YouTube. It's the F-250 and Super Duty truck engine, 7.3 pushrod engine that Ford recently came out with, 445 cubic inches, if I could do the conversion in my head real quick. Brian Wolf, former Ford engineer, has been pushing one to the limit, and I've been fortunate enough to tag along with him. So I got a ton of dyno tests, and I've written a few stories out there on the 7.3. We got one at up to 450 horsepower or 1,450 horsepower with a Whipple supercharger, and that's probably the most recent 7.3 video I have on the channel. Just a big torquey engine. It's 430 stock, which isn't, groundbreaking, especially in race car talk, but easily modified to make a lot more power. It's about an inch per side wider than a 351 Windsor. So if you're doing an engine swap, it'll fit in a whole bunch of different stuff. Team Z has an installation kit for Fox body and probably make a halfway decent road race engine because of all the torque.
Now, is the block aluminum on that or iron?
Iron block right now. There's rumors. I haven't heard anything from anybody at Ford officially, but I wouldn't be shocked down the road if there's an aluminum version. And if it really takes off, the aftermarket bites in, then look out. I mean, ported heads can flow almost 400 CFM, like just under 400 with no welding, no moving of ports. So the horsepower potential is there because obviously cylinder head flow is what you need to make power. You can always put a cam in it or build an intake, but without proper cylinder head flow characteristics, you're not going to make power. It's got big valves, I think 217 intake from the factory.
Wow, that is big.
And they're slightly canted on the intake and exhaust. I think like 1.8 degrees canted, so they open to that means the valves open towards the center of the cylinder, which means they're unshrouded. The valves the valve head gets away from the cylinder wall as it opens, so that helps flow. A lot of great design in that engine, and I think it'll take off. It might take a little while, but you can get one in crate form from Ford Performance or a junkyard, or you can check out my man Brian Wolf's website. I think it's Willis Race Engines. If you just Google Willis Race Engines, he's got all kinds of builds and options for those things.
Well, it sounds like Ford did a really great job on coming out with that motor.
Oh yeah, I mean it's designed as a truck engine, so it's got a forged steel crank. It's got 6-bolt main caps. Pretty good oiling system because it's made for severe duty. It's a pretty stout piece, in my opinion. I think we'll see big things out of it, even in the racing world.
Yeah, I take it Brian's going to put that in his car.
Yeah, the engine's in the car, and he's getting ready to go testing, so he's hoping to run pretty quick. 1,450 horsepower. I think that'll move that thing deep into the sevens.
But that'll be awesome with the truck engine.
Yeah. Well, like Brian stated, with factory, you build a 7-second engine, it's probably going to have an aftermarket block and heads. Even an LSX block is not a factory block. It's an iron GM Performance Parts block. He's going to try to go sevens or the equivalent in the 8th mile with stock crank, stock Ford block, and production heads. No aftermarket heads.
Yeah, I think that could turn into a real popular hot rod motor for putting into older cars.
I see comments here on some of the different tracks. Jeff Lucina chiming in. He likes all the tracks. Shelby likes Hallett and Hastings. I've been to Hallett. Awesome track. I didn't get to race there because when we did the 1 lap of America, at the request of my brother, I benched myself and let Jeff do the heavy lifting because he's a lot faster than me. And we ended up winning our class in the 1 lap of America, thanks to Jeff's supreme skills behind the wheel. So that was one day I'll have to get back to Hallett, and it looks like a really fun track.
I see a question. Rob Heron wants to know when you're coming to Bathurst. He's actually in Australia.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, how you doing? One of my good buddies. Man, as soon as this COVID thing is over, and Rob has some, fun stuff. If you check out his website or his Facebook page, he got commissioned by Ford in Australia to build his own performance car, much like you built your Kenny Brown cars. He built what's called the Spec R. If you Google the Mustang Spec R, you could see what Rob built. It's this beautiful, beautiful, brand new 2020 or 2021 Mustangs with great paint schemes. And I think they counted in kilowatts over there. I don't know how much horsepower a damn kilowatt equals, but they're supercharged. They look like a lot of fun. I got to drive the right-hand drive Bullet, so shifting with my left hand. So I'm pretty confident that I can handle that. I don't know about racing right-hand steer, shifting with my left hand, but it's just another challenge. I'll probably figure it out. So, Rob, I'll come over as soon as COVID's over. All I need is an invite.
I think that's easy to get.
Yeah, Rob is a huge personality in Australia, and
Yeah.
he's somebody we should maybe have on. He'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, he'd be kind of
Oh my
fun too.
God, he'd blow the ratings out of the water. He's got great stories. He's a wonderful storyteller.
He is wonderful.
And they're
Probably
like
need
70% true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Dave Robinson, Brands Hatch. That's got kind of a great track in the UK.
I got that on iRacing.
Yeah, those are a lot of tracks in Europe I'd love to drive. I mean, Spa is definitely one of them. Silverstone, Brands Hatch.
Kenny, you just need to get out of the cold, come down to Tampa, hang out with Campy and I, and you can drive them all on my rig.
I may have to do that. Although it's actually not so cold. It's actually warming up to 20 degrees today.
Yeah, well, it was. I think we cracked 80 2 days ago.
I don't want to hear it.
Just saying.
So we have another question from Bob Jones. He's one of our Speed Therapy Academy alumni, and he says, "It's great to have Evan on. Thanks, Kenny and Carrie. I'd like to know more about Evan's iRacing setup."
Okay, I'll hold the.
We lost him. He unplugged himself.
He unplugged himself. He'll be back. So in the meantime, let's see if we have any questions for you, Kenny. I know there's one from Wendy. Let's go way back up here. Why don't you talk about do you want to give the winners away?
Oh, I can give the winners away. The winners, drum roll.
I'll tell what it's for.
For the Dan Neves charity.
You're losing your words.
Yeah, losing my words.
For the raffle for the
Cruise for a cause.
Yeah.
I always want to say the cause, but
Yeah.
Cruise for a cause. Anyway, for those that donated, and we actually raised quite a bit of money, and like I say, you can still get that 40% extra chances on the GT500 through today, or is it through tomorrow?
That's through tomorrow.
Through tomorrow, and then after that, you can still get a 20% bump, 25%
by using the same code.
By using the same code, 25% more chances. So the winners are Andrew Clutchin, maybe?
Clutch, yeah.
Cascade, Iowa. Congratulations, Andrew, and thanks for donating. And we have Martin Lacey of La Crosse, Wisconsin. So both of you guys are the lucky winners of, I see Evan back there, are the lucky winners of the $100 gift certificates.
Okay, we'll contact you this week and we'll get you those gift certificates. Congratulations. And again, if you want to donate to Cruise for the Cause to win that 21 GT500, go to cruiseforacause.org and use the code KB Performance to get 40% more chances to win. Okay, and we have a question from Bob. Let's get back to that. Well, Evan, we have you back on.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I moved the computer and it just disconnected, but I'm back. So I'm not going to touch the computer anymore. So Bob wants to know, I got all the credit for my rig goes to my buddy Abe because he's like my IT computer wizard. I'm dumb when it comes to that. I can turn my Mac on and write stories. But so it's a R-seat frame with a Recaro seat, triple Dell monitors, 32-inch curves, and I have a monitor up top that you can see that shows all my info when I'm driving. Like it has a track map, so I could like look up and see if a turn is coming. Your relative screen, so that you could see what drivers are around you, and you can. There's different apps to set that up. And then for steering and braking, I have Fanatec, the 2.5 V Club Sport, which is somewhat affordable steering and braking setup that gives you a lot of feel. That's where you want to spend your money. The rig itself is kind of personal preference, but you can find them. There's pages on Facebook too where people sell used equipment. But having a decent steering wheel and having good brakes is everything because you're simulating. So if you don't have good braking feel, then you're not going to be fast or have a fun time doing any kind of sim racing because you're just going to step on the brake pedal and have no feel. You got to be able to have a little bit of, you're trying to recreate through a computer what the car is telling you. And when you kind of get your mindset wrapped around that fact right there, that you kind of have to think outside the box as you're driving, because the depth perception isn't quite as good as it would be in a real car, and you don't feel any G-force. And a lot of people have asked me why I don't have a motion rig, because you got to spend an awful lot of money to get a motion rig that really actually recreates G-force. Otherwise, you just feel like you're a can of paint getting shaken around. And if you're in the thing for more than about 10 minutes, it becomes annoying. So I prefer for the house a rig that doesn't move, and it's just more comfortable over a long period of time. But the fact that you could drive so many different cars is just mind-bending. And it's funny because they really do have the cars dialed in. You can set up the suspensions however you want. And as you go up in, just like Kenny kind of taught back in the day, you want to start in a slower car because things just happen slower. As you drive faster and faster cars, your brain has to function so much faster to stay on top of your braking. The window shrinks for what you can do for mistakes, basically.
Yep, that's what we tell people.
So we have a couple more questions here, and this is last call for any questions for Evan or for Kenny. So Jim Camposano says he's woefully rusty behind the wheel. Any new schools coming up?
We're working on that. It's been such a thrash to get this new suspension done. And with the COVID thing, it's kind of like been an awkward year. I think we need to get this product launched because we think it's going to do really, really well. And it's the preview Thursday night is private, just for Speed Therapy Society people, any Facebook group people, any editors that. Wow, that's cool.
Can you put that up there a little bit more? Wow.
That's one of my wheels.
That's like the real thing.
Oh, yeah. Paddle shifts. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Kenny. I just figured I'd show a visual while you were talking. But it stopped doing your tracks.
No, that's good. It looks like the real deal.
Don't you have some gloves that you use when you're driving on your...
Oh, yeah. All right. I got these special gloves that I've had a really long time because, your hands get sweaty. So these are I wear these gloves because of this.
Those are vintage.
Yeah, those are vintage Kenny Brown track gloves.
Yeah, I mean, who has a pair of these still? Nomex. So if my sim catches on fire, I'm good. I almost forgot to show these. I'm glad you brought that up. These are classics.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of track days in the 90s. And that's one of the things we had. We had our own, because I like people to drive with gloves because it gives you a much better feel and your hands don't get tired. So we had our own gloves. I think Carrie's on working on doing that again. And as far as track days, I hadn't even thought that far ahead. But what I was saying is that if any editors join us for the reveal, anything that we say is embargoed till probably the end of March into April. Because we did the Speed Therapy Academy first. This is Speed Therapy Society launching, and or actually a preview, and then the end of, we don't know yet, end of April, beginning of May, we'll probably do official launch for the media and general public.
I see John. I hope it went away. Kuznicki had a question. No, that was not me. I've never rolled a car over. I've done a lot of stuff in cars. Been sideways, been backwards, actually been on fire once, but never rolled over, thankfully.
Yeah, that was your Motor Trend car. Remember the Car and Driver Motor Trend debacle? That's what John is talking about.
Oh yeah, I built a really cool Fox body, supercharged with an automatic, and it was supposed to be the cover car for Motor Trend, and I just happened to stop by Car and Driver because they're right there in Ann Arbor. Just kind of like a courtesy, and here's this cool car I did. Would you like to take it around the block? Yeah, and the editor that was driving, remember I said earlier that just because they can write, doesn't necessarily mean they can drive. Long story short, he ended up driving off an entrance ramp through ravine, up a ravine, into a concrete wall. The car flipped over a couple times and skidded down the road. So that was the end of that car for Motor Trend. Fortunately, we were able to substitute another car. It wasn't as cool, but it's still a great car.
Okay, and then we also have a question. Cool gloves, Rory Merrick says. Larry Martin says, I think this is a question for you, Ken. Having a 4-speed Jericho first gear setup for on track or pits only?
Pits only, probably. It depends on which engine you're running. I mean, like you typically want to make as few shifts as possible and easy shifts. Like with the reason I like the Magnum so much in the Coyote cars, the third and fourth are just front and back. And I use third and fourth almost exclusively, and every now and again I might dip into fifth. But typically, unless you got a really tight track, I mean, I just use, if it's a Jericho 5-speed, I'd use it more for the pits, but I wouldn't do too deep, just in case you had to use it sometime to get out of a spot.
Okay, and we have Wendy. We haven't forgotten your question. She asked at the very beginning, I think this is related to something you spoke about. So it's talking about gearing and hitting red line at the end of the longest straightaway. Do you ever look at corner exit gearing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's a good point. The time we would look at corner exit gearing would be the turn, the last turn before the longest straightaway. Because we want to be sure that coming off that corner, whatever gear it's in, it's like max torque, and you can pull off pretty hard. So yeah, that's a good question. So anytime we set up any car, I'm setting up race cars, always look at the corner before the longest straightaway first, and we'll dial the car in for that. And then go to the corner before the next longest straightaway, because I mean, sometimes these twisty bits you can't pass. But if you can get a big launch off a corner, you're going to get somebody down the straightaway and outbrake them.
Okay, so here's a question from Doug. You get the car and you want to race truss circuit. What's the next step to getting started? You show up to a track on open track day. Here in BG, Kentucky. Is there an orientation inspections? I think he's asking about how to get started, maybe.
The thing to do is, if you've got a local track, or even one that's not too far, look at their schedule and see if they have any clubs that are scheduling track days. Because you definitely want to go to your first thing. If you go out on your own, you're not going to learn anything, and you're probably going to make a mess of things. But you want to do something, hook up with somebody that's doing a track day, whether it's some kind of driving club. And almost all the tracks have driving clubs that do it. And then you sign up as a novice, and they'll do some classroom, and then also put an instructor in the car with you is the way to do it. And yes, there typically is a technical inspection, but it's just checking things like make sure the wheels are torqued, everything's out of the trunk, everything's out of the car, you got good brakes, and just sort of safety things. You've got the right helmet. So yeah, just find a track that's close, or even a track that you want to go to, and look at their schedule and find out what driving clubs go there, and get a hold of the driving club and see if you can run with them, and they can give you some instruction.
Brian West said for Kentucky that the Corvette plant track would be great for starting out at. Oh yeah,
the Corvette track, the Corvette Museum track. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been there, Evan?
Yeah, I've driven on it.
Like that. Whoever did that really had their shit together. I mean, that is a fun track. So
I think that's it for questions. Last call. Kenny's going to make a few announcements, and I'll pick up two more questions if they come in. But you can, Evan, we really appreciate you coming today.
Yeah, this is awesome having you here.
You're welcome.
It's really nice to catch up.
Yeah. Hey, one last thing. Just to, I know Jeff's watching Lucina, and his track guy school, and I know Jeff personally has offered his services for coaching, and he's a fantastic teacher of theory and of practical in the car, and he really understands, how to get a novice going. So I don't know if Jeff can chime in and let people know how maybe they can get a hold of him on Facebook or something, but that would be more on a personal level. I don't know if they're still doing the track track guys' schools, but his schools and in combination what we used to do is really how I got started. It's that it's intimidating to go out on track. You're putting yourself and your car at risk. So it's very important to get the basics and the foundations and understand braking, understand turning, and, being very smooth is critical, because the guy who's doing all this and stabbing the throttle, not only you're not going to go fast doing that, but you're upsetting the balance of the car and you're probably going to spin out. So understanding how to brake for a turn, enter a turn, and then get back on the throttle smoothly to manipulate the weight is not only what's going to make you fast, but it's going to be able to let you come home with your car in one piece.
Yeah.
So,
the other thing too is the guys who are sawing at the wheel and driving it sideways, you wear yourself out doing that. You can do it for a few corners, maybe a little bit, but after a while, you just wear yourself out, and that's when you make your mistakes.
Cliff mentions that Hooked on Driving does a great job with beginners and training, and they're national, and that is a good organization.
Yeah, I mean, the key is to get hooked up with one of the driving clubs and get some instruction. That's really important. Okay, I guess we're out of questions.
Yep.
And I really appreciate Evan being here.
all right, guys, I'm heading out to Sebring, man. I'm going to go watch some old school Trans Am cars today. It's going to be awesome.
That's one of my most favorite classes. Those small block V8s just making all kinds of noise.
Oh my God. I'm going to try to go, if there's a signal, I'll go Facebook Live later today. If we get down there and it's nice out, it's a little chilly out there, but that's all right. We'll try to go Facebook Live or something. So I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. It's been a really fun hour with you guys.
Yeah, like I say, we haven't seen each other for a long time, and this is great, even though it's virtual. But
that's all right. Everybody gets to join in our conversation, which is neat.
But thanks again. Next week we're gonna have Paul Dondero talk about he's on a customer spotlight. Talk about his V6 Mustang chasing down V8s, and we're gonna have a new Impact. Impact has a new racing seat, which we'll be introducing, and then we'll have to do something for an anniversary. I don't know what yet.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it was our 1-year anniversary until about 20 minutes.
Just like you never remember our anniversary.
Yeah, I do. It's the 21st.
Oh, what month?
December.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
she hasn't. I always remember her birthday because it's really easy. It's 1, 2, 3, January 23rd. So I kind of, husbands always have a hard time remembering birth dates and anniversaries.
So anyway, and next week, well, I guess we'll talk about the anniversary. If you have any ideas, put them in the comment what you'd like to see celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Kenny's Cars and Coffee. That's what it used to be. Cars and Coffee with Kenny Brown.
And of course, remember, I talk about what you guys want to know about. So if you want to be any subjects you want me to talk about, any questions you have, send them in through Speed Therapy Society, because that's where I pull the questions. And like I say, I'll talk about what you want to know about. Well, you learn something. Mm-hmm. So anyway, listen, thanks everybody for being here. A super extra special thanks for Evan, and it was nice to see Campy was here. We haven't seen him in a long time. It's kind of like getting the band back together. So, well, anyway, we'll see everybody next week. Thanks again, everybody.